Okay, I guess I'll call this segment Coffee and Cassettes. And I'll tell you a little story here. I purchased this cassette on eBay. And if you can see here, it is brand new in the shrink wrap, never been opened. And I got it for a pretty affordable price. So this is not an extremely rare or valuable cassette, but I thought it would be cool to own something that's in the 70s, but still brand new. And in theory, having never been played, this should be in excellent condition, and I should hear a nice, clean, crisp stereo recording of this Temptations album. But what the eBay seller did not disclose to me is this. See this giant chunk taken out of the top here? This is from a cutout bin. Anything back in the day that wasn't sold, they would send back to the distributor. The distributor would cut it out, usually drill a small hole in the case or a saw mark on the spine here to damage the case, not the tape, damage the case, so then it couldn't be sold for new. And then the store who sent it back would get a credit toward their next purchase. But someone got a little overzealous with the bandsaw or drill or whatever they used and just destroyed the case. And also, you can see right here, drilled clean through the tape inside this. This tape is destroyed, which is kind of a bummer. I'm going to have to leave the appropriate feedback on eBay. And most people just take this and throw it away. Now, you might be thinking, well, yeah, you can see the cassette is kind of messed up there on the side, but maybe it's not too damaged. Maybe you can still play it. Well, I kind of think the same. So first, let's unwrap this, because, like we said, it's brand new, still in shrink wrap. Get rid of this over here. And you can even see how shiny it is. There we go. Nice and shiny, brand new. Jewel case, not a scratch on it, except for the gaping hole. Oh, there we go. And yeah, the case is trashed. Doesn't even want to come off. There we go, a little more evidence of what they did here. And, ooh, messed up the J card. Ooh, melted plastic. Oh, look at that. Big glob of melted blue plastic from the case. And the J card's mostly intact. A little bit of damage right there. So we're going to have to throw this away. Just for giggles, 1975, Motown Record Corporation. So my instinct was correct. This was in the 70s. It looks kind of like a 1970s packaging. They moved along to better graphics and different colors in the 80s. But we'll set that aside because we're focusing on this right now. And there you go. That is pretty well chewed up. You can even see the tape on the inside of the shell. So this won't even go in a player the way it is. This giant wart of melted plastic on the side. Try to get it off. Ooh, and that is really on there. So I'm going to have to clean this up somehow. Let's see here. Got a little multi-screwdriver tool here. Just try to rip this plastic off. Ooh. There we go. And some more here. Now you know why I'm wearing gloves. And for another very good reason, which I'll go through here in a few minutes. Get all the debris off this tape. Now, even though I got everything off the outside here, you see a little piece of debris there. I'm betting that some of this plastic got on the inside of the cassette, and if I actually tried to play this, the tape would move along, grab the debris, and spool it up in the center, and then destroy the tape. So I really don't want to try and put this in the player and play it. Yeah, there's little chunks of plastic coming out when I do that. So there's definitely debris in here. Now, like I was saying when we started, this is not a particularly rare or valuable cassette, but I want to hear it. I like the Temptations. I don't recall hearing very much of their 70s output. I want to hear this. So what can I do? I have an idea, and here's where the gloves come in handy. I'm going to reshell the tape reels from inside this tape and put it in a replacement shell. Now you can see here, this is no printing on this cassette, and it only has about 3 minutes of tape in there. So really, I'm not going to be losing much tape by pulling it out and reusing the shell. And you can see on this tape, the screws, there's 5 screws here, 1 on each corner and 1 in the center here. So I can use my multi-screwdriver tool, pull this cassette apart, pull this tape reel out, and replace it with a tape reel from here, just so I can hear the album to see what it's like. This cassette has no screws. It was glued together at the factory, so it's going to be a little bit of a chore to get it apart. This is where we go back to my screwdriver here. And I found the easiest way to do this is start at the record tab holes up here. Get a screwdriver in here and pull them apart or pry it apart and crack this seam along the cassette. And then just work it in there and move it back and forth and crack all this. It's going to get fun when I get to here because A, there's a gap here, so it's going to want to snap, and B, it's all melted and like plastic welded together, so that's going to be a little bit of fun. But for starters, let's try to get this seam here cracked. I'll try to move the camera a little bit so you can see what I'm up to. That should be good. I want to try to crack this. Ooh, this is really glued together well. This might take a little bit of pressure. There we go. This side was much easier. Did you hear that crack? Now we got an opening. Right there. So, I'm going to put my screwdriver blade in this opening. Move it up and down. Move it down the length of the cassette. Crack more. Move it down. Crack some more. Until we get this open. I have to repeat this process all the way around the cassette. There we go. There we go. And we got it popped off. Now just a little more pressure here. There we go. And I've successfully pulled it apart. And as you can see, yeah, there are lots of little plastic bits in here. And there's even some on the tape itself. Now, almost nothing of this is going to get thrown away. I'm saving all these parts. I actually have a little bank vault of sorts started here from other cassettes I've torn apart, saved bits and pieces of it for future cassette projects. I'll keep these little slip sleeves here. And you always want to keep the pressure pad. These fall off or break on some cassettes. You want to keep the rollers. There's 2 of them. And if you can see down here a little pin. There's a little pin here that goes in the roller hole there to keep the rollers on. You might lose those sometimes, so keep them. There's one over here on the other side. I'll get that out later. And here's the tape reel itself. Here's where the gloves come in handy. I don't want to transfer my finger oils to the reel. Just kind of gently reel this up. Clean it up a little bit, get the plastic bits off it. Oh, that's what I didn't want to do. This is where you got to be careful. This tape will want to unspool itself on you. There we go. And there's the cassette spool. There's the entire recording of the album right there on these reels. So I'm going to set this off to the side. Just let it hang out over here until I'm ready for it. And coming back to the carcass here, this is a magnetic shield. It goes behind the pressure pad right here and keeps the magnetic field from the head from going through the cassette and then potentially erasing the information on the tape reels behind it. So this is a good thing to save. And then the other slip sheet. I'll keep that. So my parts bin is growing for future cassette repairs. I've got all kinds of things in there, and I just set it off to the side. These are junk. Look at that poor shell. And of course, now that I've torn it apart, it'll never go back together the same. So, one thing I'm a little bit interested in trying is, you see these are paper labels here. They're actually stuck on the cassette shell. Sometimes, there you go. You can see some glare off it there. Sometimes you can pull these paper labels off and reuse them on your next repair shell like this. So I'm going to set this aside and just see if I could gently pull these off. Maybe apply some steam to it, pull it off, then re-glue them on my new cassette shell. Because for all intents and purposes, this is still an original cassette album. And if I can save all the original parts and transfer them over and keep the label and the J-card, well, it's still an original album release. Although it's been repaired, modified, and restored. So we'll set these aside. I'll play with those later. Next part of the process is answering my phone. Okay, I'm back after that little distraction. Next part of the process is to open this cassette up. Switch from the flat blade that I was using to pull the other one apart to a small Phillips for these, and now I'm just going to remove all 5 screws on this cassette. Okay, now we can pull this cassette shell apart very carefully because these screws are going to want to fly all over the place. I think this one's not quite loose enough. There we go. There we go. And dump these screws out. Make sure you don't lose them. They tend to fly all over the place. Set that over here. And you can see this is a much newer cassette. This is a 90s vintage. So there's been much improvement done on these little slip sheets. You can see the indents, top and bottom. Here's the tape side. So these are quite the improvement over the older ones. Now to remove this tape reel. And I'm still being careful with this. I doubt I'll ever use this for anything else, but just in case. We'll try to keep this in nice shape too. So there we go. And like I said earlier, there's probably only 3 or 4 minutes of tape on this, but it might come in handy for another project. Even if it doesn't, these reels here will, these take up and supplied reels. There we go. You can see how the tape snaps in via this little tab here. So that'll make a good replacement reel should I come across a tape that needs one. So let's set this off to the side. And now putting the old tape in its new home. And then you've got to follow the tape path here. Switch to a little bit of a close-up here so you watch me thread the tape through the tape path of this cassette. And there you have it. Now replace the slip sheet in its correct orientation. Shiny side up. The dull side goes down against the tape. Then replace the top of the cassette very carefully. You have to make sure these parts here don't pinch the tape. And you'll see the tape wants to be on the outside of those. So take a little persuasion to get them in. There we go. Tapes are now, the tape leader here is now on the inside of these plastic retainers here. And then just put the screws back in and tighten the shell up, and we're done. And really, I'm past the point of needing gloves, so I'll take at least one hand free. And there you have it. One repaired cassette. Now I can finally listen to that Temptations album. Okay, and I'm ready to hear it. So, there's one more thing I want to do. Because this was a new cassette, never used, but it's been sitting for 40 years now, 40 plus years. I want to exercise it. I'm going to fast forward it all the way to the end of the cassette and then rewind it, and that should loosen up any tension that still exists on the reels. So let's just fast forward through this. And you can see the tape moving from supply reel over to the take-up reel, and it stopped. So now I will rewind it back through the tape. And it is rewinding smoothly. I don't see a lot of wobble on the reels. I'm not hearing any noises. So I think this is going to be successful. And the cassette stopped all the way at the very beginning. Now, I'm not going to play you guys too much of this for copyright reasons. And here we go. And that's probably enough. But as you can see, it's playing nicely. Peaks are way up into the reds, so it's a quality recording. And I'm going to sit back and listen to the rest of the album. So that's how you do it. That's how you fix a completely broken eBay cassette by rehoming it into a new cassette shell. And you'll get to enjoy the album that you originally purchased. Even though you thought you might not be able to. Okay, and as you guys remember from the very start of this video, the original case that I got is trashed, and it's broken, won't go back together. The little tabs here on the side are broken, so this is junk. But I still have the J card. So what I thought I would do was go through my pile of cassettes that I've saved or salvaged parts from. And I came across this. Another blue tape case. It's not quite the same blue as the original Motown release, but it'll work just fine. And I'll take the J card and put it in here. And there we go. I've got a nice, unblemished, nearly new tape case to keep this repaired cassette in. And it'll look good on my shelf. And the blue kind of matches the fonts and the text here, so win-win. Okay, I'm back with a short addendum. I was going through the lot of cassettes that I won on eBay, and I found another one, sealed Motown cassette. Look at this. Here we go again. This is also a cutout drilled through the side. I got two of them in the same lot of cassettes. So, am I going to go the same route with this one that I did with the previous Temptations cassette and fix it? Well, you can see it's sealed. So it's brand new. Let's open it up and see how bad the damage is on this one. There's the cut. Ooh, not too bad. The shell still opens. The case still opens. It's attached. The J card's not messed up too bad. And the tape itself, yeah, it's got a notch in it, but it's not burned all the way through into the tape itself. So I'm thinking this one's going to be fine. I'll just clean up this edge a little bit. Get that burnt plastic off it. And this is intact enough where I'm just going to leave it. This is The Hitman by Eddie Kendricks, who was a member of the Temptations. Strange. And this one is also 1975 Motown. On the Tamla label, one of their subsidiaries at the time. So, strange. Same basic design of the cassette. Same blue case. Same year. Sort of the same artist. A former lead singer of the Temptations and a Temptations cassette. Both with cutouts. But this one is in better shape. So, I'm going to leave this one as is. And just put it in my pile on top of the other Temptations tape that I got. So I'll listen to it here shortly. So a little addendum there. I just realized I had another one with similar circumstances from the same lot of cassettes I bought on eBay. And a side note here, the seller, I went back on eBay and looked at the pictures of the lot of cassettes I bought. The seller went through a lot of trouble to mask this, and especially the other cutout. He had the cassettes sort of at an angle like this, so you couldn't see the damage over here, and like this, and like this. Had another cassette stacked down the side here. So he went to great lengths to disguise the fact that these were all damaged. At least these two were damaged so far, what I found in the lot. And, dude, come on, man. I still would have bought these, even if I saw this damage. Especially this one, because I could If you get the right angle here, you could tell that the cassette itself is not damaged. It's just the case. Now, I don't mind buying cutout cassettes with minimal damage, or like you saw in the previous one, with a lot of damage, because I can repair them. So I would have bought these anyway, but the fact that the seller hid this and did not put it in the description kind of burns me a little bit. You could have just been honest with it. Always tell the truth, eBay sellers. Always tell the truth, even about blemishes, especially about blemishes. If I was a serious Motown collector or cassette collector or a Temptations collector, and I was really serious about it and I was looking for a prime, pristine example for my collection, that would be a deal killer right there. I would immediately send this back and demand a refund. But I'm not that guy. I enjoy music, I love cassettes, and I want to give it a good home in my collection. I'm not too concerned about that. But if I was that guy, I'd be all over the seller demanding a refund, negative feedback, 1 star, the whole 9 yards. So eBay sellers out there, just be honest. Even if it is a little bit broken or blemished, the right buyer will come along for exactly what you have. So I think I am going to head back over to eBay. Maybe ding him up a little bit on his feedback for just being dishonest about the actual condition of this cassette, because it just said new, sealed. Didn't mention the damage. The pictures were all orientated, so you couldn't see the damage, and I get it here, and lo and behold, damage. So I repaired the first one. This one doesn't need any more attention. It's just a little ugly. I'm sure it's going to play just fine. They're going to be happy additions to my collection, and I'm going to teach the eBay seller a small lesson. So that's it. Wrap up this segment. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.
Access Vision. Your voice, your community.